Good morning, everybody. Good morning, good morning. This is Jillian with Jilly Juice. And yeah, this needs to be understood that we're not entering into a world of guns and shooting each other as far as like World War III. Okay, you're going to see, obviously, you're seeing different bombings in different places, and you guys are probably wondering where the hell these bombings like Beirut and other places. You probably don't even know what's going on, and we don't know. You can always speculate and say it's the Zionists or somebody else. I don't know. But yeah, and you're also seeing in the streets of America people shooting each other. Okay, so you're seeing the decay of the internal network of our country in America. You have to understand there's so many different wars on so many different fronts, but the biggest weapon, the largest weapon, the most destructive weapon that is going to erase all of your boundaries or all of your different, well, it's going to erase your separation. It's going to bring you all together when you think about it. Antifa, BLM, Trump supporters, Biden supporters, whatever, is the fact that you're in a microbial war. A microbial war doesn't discriminate. A microbial war does not know whether or not you're a Second Amendment holder, if you're a BLM or an Antifa or Trump supporter. Do you see what's going on here? Do you see the fast tracking the vaccines? Maybe vaccines were at one point saving people's lives, but now they're making the antibodies way more aggressive. Okay, you're seeing the antivirals being promoted. What are antivirals? They basically are monoclonal antibodies that search and destroy evolution in your body. They have a programmed antigen that will go find that antigen and then go create an antibody and then destroy that specific cell. Okay? And so no one's going to take your guns when you think about it. It's impossible to take a gun away from someone when they're alive and well. But when you can chip away at their immune system, when you can chip away at their vital organs, when you can chip away at their life force, they're not apt to want to use a gun, or if they do, it's not going to be against the government, it's going to be against their own people, which is what kind of probably the intention is anyways, right, with this whole depopulation agenda. There are so many different wars and so many different fronts, but the biggest one, the biggest war that most people are not even realizing is the microbial war. Okay, it's what you can't see is what the most dangerous thing about the war in America. I mean, yeah, you know, if you go into inner cities, yeah, and you're part of like the drug culture and you're part of the gang culture, yeah, you're going to see more guns than not, and you're also going to be seeing the microbial war too. You won't see it, but you'll be feeling it. Okay, and so those that are not part of the gang culture or the drug culture, they're going to be then taken down by the viruses and the different microbes against the body that isn't prepared to handle that evolution. And that's why you're seeing people going like, oh, wow, I have lesions in my mouth. I have to go get it biopsied. Oh, wow, my kid has, this stomach ache or has this issue. And you're going to see an uptick of all of your issues being exacerbated. Okay? I mean, that evolution is when the body is exposed to a new data, a new entity in the environment, and it has to adapt. And with that adaptation is also evolution. But you have not given your body what it needs. So the body is going to try to evolve. And it's like when you put two incompatible programs together, like on your phone, there's glitches. Have you ever like tried to upload a new app on your phone and your phone hasn't been updated and so it doesn't work correctly? And so then you start doing troubleshooting. Like I had that happen with my computer where I couldn't do Facebook Lives for a while because the computer wasn't updated. And so whatever the Facebook app and the video quality, they weren't jiving with each other. So there was glitches. So then I had to go and use a different mode of communication to get my point across until my computer was updated and until the app and my computer started speaking to each other and evolving together, of which then now you're seeing a better transmission. That's the same thing with the body. If your body is not upgraded and you haven't given the body the necessary minerals and nutritions and sealed and healed, so to speak, and understand what pain is, then when you get exposed to an evolutionary thought process as well as an evolutionary entity in your environment, whether it's a virus, whether it's a microbe, whether it's a parasite, whatever it is, you won't be able to adapt. And that's exactly what the powers that be, whether it's Trump, whether it's Soros, whether it's Biden, they're all playing these distraction games. But when you think about the actual war, it's the war on at the microbial level. And if you don't recognize the indicators and you think pain is bad, you're then going to turn to antivirals. You're going to turn to anti-inflammatories. You're going to turn to antibiotics. You're going to turn to elderberry syrup. You're going to turn to kombucha, apple cider vinegar. You're going to turn to all the different supplements. You're going to turn to exercise regimes. You're going to turn to diets. You're going to turn to meditation and chakras and all these different, energy healing type of stuff that is going to work against you in the long run. Okay? So while there's so many different wars and so many different fronts in America, and you're seeing so many different campaigns with the masks, with the pedophile stuff, with the protesting of your rights being taken away, your freedoms being taken away, the social distancing, all of that. I'm telling you, you guys are being massively distracted. And yes, you're going to see things going to be ramping up, and only the strong are going to survive, because you can't stop a tidal wave of a leveling force, and that is the microbes out there. You can't stop that. Now, you can see governments and entities out there and different factions try to implement very draconian measures to control your movements and control your spending. And yes, you're seeing, I'm already seeing that with my student loans. Instead of, and they want all this paperwork for my student loans. And then when everything is, it's like a cashless society, and when everything is automated and digitized, which they are, and they take away cash, then all of your spending, all of your records, everything that you do is going to be easily trackable, yes, which is okay. We already knew this. But it's, and then everything is going to be, I don't know. It's going to be where everybody can see what it is that you're doing. And that's not a bad thing, because it's a double-edged sword, and it's a good thing and it's a bad thing, but it's a good thing too, that people can see the Jilly Juice protocol. They can see what it's about. They can make a choice whether or not they want to partake in it and see the results. And then, yes, on that flip side of all of those benefits of having everything be like a surveillance society, then you have people watching what you're doing and then trying to find ways to counter. And that's what I do. It's like I look at the internet, I look at what you guys are saying. And if I see that it's what I think is still teetering on the agenda, which is making you think that life and death are one of the same, then I'll find a way to counter it and compete through intellect. Because it's not about, mano a mano out there on the street. That's a very baser instinct. That's really very archaic, where you're on the streets battling swords. Now it's a microbial war. Is your biochemistry going to be strong enough for your environment? Okay? And then how can you take the word chemistry to be able to then get through to some of your friends and family, to where then they're not choosing the antivirals, the antibiotics, the chemotherapy, the cannabis, and all of that. But that's the world that we're entering into, is can you compete on an intellectual level and a microbial level? What kind of words are you putting out there? What do you understand the syntax of the English language? Do you understand what facts are? And that's why I did kind of a refresher of what I did a couple weeks ago, or about a couple months ago, about what are facts. Facts are words that can only be a noun. It can't be an adjective or an adverb or a verb. Like antibiotic or antibody. It's a noun. It can't be an adjective. It can't be an adverb. It can't be a verb. It's only a noun. It's a fact. It's indisputable. Antibody, anti-life, antibody, anti-your body. Okay? When something is antibiotic, it's anti-life. And now that can be used, that is like That can be used as a noun. It can be used as an adjective. It can also be used as an adverb or a verb. Okay? Because you can call somebody antibiotic. I said that doctors are antibiotic. So that word can be used as an adjective. Or here's an antibiotic. It can be used as a noun. Okay? You're being really antibiotic. It's kind of like an adverb type of thing. Or a verb or whatever. So antibody is a straight fact. And so then when CNN or Dr. Fauci or Fox or Trump is promoting antivirals, antibody-inducing medicines, antibody-inducing holistic or allopathic remedies, they're promoting the same agenda. It's an attack at your system at the microbial level. The antibody is really, it's the bioweapon. It's the bioweapon. You realize that you guys are all being played. This whole, this whole hitting one faction against the other, when the common ground that links everybody together is they're fighting the bioweapon. The massive bioweapon is the antibody that is being promoted, using your own immune system against you, programming monoclonal antibodies. And it's all in plain sight. The reason why it's in plain sight, because they've brainwashed you to think that antibodies are like the end-all be-all. And so you have to understand Trump, people, because, Trump is great in some areas, but the fact that he's promoting the vaccines, the fact that he's promoting the antivirals, hydroxychloroquine, that should raise some major red flags. And the same thing with BLM, the same thing with Antifa, the same thing with Biden. Okay, all of them have a major common ground. All of the politics, the left, the right, the middle, the conservative, the communist, whatever, they're promoting antibodies. They are promoting the bioweapon of today, as well as the future. And so you got to understand that, Jilly juice, if you're not putting Jilly juice somewhere in the background, you're going to be subject to the acceleration of the aging process. Okay? That's why I said all doctors deal with death. All of them. I don't care who you are. You could be the nicest doctor in the neighborhood. You could be the most passionate doctor out there on Facebook acting as if you're the hero because you happen to hold this position and you have a 5,000 square foot house. Big fucking whoop on the backs of people who are dying. Well, what about the triage doctors and those that do in the ER? Do you realize that we have people out there in war, which we shouldn't have, but we do, that are not doctors, that triage people and do the first aid? But then, we shouldn't have war. So the reason why we have surgeons and anesthesiologists is the fact that we are creating situations where we're going to have mass casualties. What if we didn't have to create situations where there's mass casualties? Okay? We wouldn't need all of these doctors to sew people up, to take out shrapnel, to remove organs. Oh, but what about the car accidents? Well, car accidents have to do with human error, as well as, yes, there could be glitches in the system where it causes an accident. And yes, but when you think about, you take away every other reason why to have a doctor and it's only for car accidents, and then we get people 100% healthy, how many car accidents do you think would happen? If we didn't have as many people on this earth because we're not breeding so many people who are imbalanced causing accidents, I could see statistically those numbers go down as far as accidents. Needing a doctor to go and sew somebody up. If somebody falls out of a tree and breaks their leg, well, you set the bone, you put them in a cast, whatever, let the body heal, drink the J juice, there off you go. I've said many times in my head, as well as other people, if I ever get into a car accident, whatever it is, yeah, that's fine, triage me or whatever, and then I'm going to go home and heal. I'm not taking any antibiotics. I know it's going to be painful, but I've already dealt with pain doing the Jilly juice with all the predispositions I had to deal with. And I'll go home and heal, and the body will recalibrate and go back to where it was originally before I got into that accident. Okay? So all doctors are about death. They only keep you alive just enough for you to come back to them in the near future. And they call it saving your life. But the end result is you're not going to be stay alive. You're going to end up in their palliative care unit. And you guys have seen it. You've seen it in your families. So I know it sounds like I'm attacking and demonizing, but remember, it's about life and death. The only time that you should be subjective, in my opinion, okay, is when it has to do with life and death. You can be objective about everything else. You know, objectivity is an art that it takes a relatively balanced biochemistry to practice objectivity in a very subjective world. But the subjectivity, because even though nobody can be on one side or the other really on a predominant basis, you're still going to be subjective about life. And doctors are not about life. They're about keeping you alive just long enough for them to pay off their student loans, to make sure that their boss is happy. Because obviously, you know, dead patients are not going to be able to give you money. And if you have a reputation of killing your patients, then you're not going to have any clients. Okay? So you got to get out from under the spell of revering doctors, revering homeopathics, naturopathics. You've got to get out from under the spell of turning to antibiotics, antivirals, every holistic remedy, detox, whatever. Jelly juice is not a detox. What it does simultaneously is releases the excess, no different than when you have diarrhea and the body is now taking the electrolytes in your body and getting rid of the excess bacteria. You know, when someone out there who's not doing jelly juice gets diarrhea, guess what's going on? They drank a drink that had some bacteria that the body didn't agree with for whatever reason. And so the body took the electrolytes and the water in the body and pushed out the excess bacteria. Now you have to replace those electrolytes that are missing because you use those electrolytes to push out and energize your immune system to push out the excess. But now you have to replace those that you have used. Okay? Some of you are not replacing your electrolytes. Some of you, all of you, well, some of you have not been replacing the nutrients and the minerals. Or you're so over mineralized, but your body's not putting it to good use that it's causing glitches. So that's why the jelly juice and the waterfalls could be construed as a diarrhea. I mean, it is and it isn't, but it doesn't dehydrate you and you're not losing electrolytes because you're bringing in electrolytes. You're not depleting your resources, of which why people go to the hospital and get fluids because they've depleted their resources because the body was working correctly, but the person hasn't been able to replace the electrolytes fast enough for the body to still be able to operate. So, you know, I'm trying to get you out from under the spell of doctors, under the spell of any savior, have you understand that indefinite life is a possibility if you get out from under the spell of doctors and homeopathics, naturopathics, you know, holistic industry. I mean, I'm telling you, every single person that gets a license to practice with clients is dealing with the death process in some aspect. Oh yeah, but they well, and here's the thing too. You know, when I was talking about landmark education and how it's so great. Yeah, landmark education was great in some aspects. One of the biggest issues I took to landmark, because they said, hey, you know, think of something to take to landmark to figure out what to work on. One of my biggest things was not graduating high school because school and university was like totally pounded into me and I rejected it for a reason. Now you're seeing why I rejected university and even school on some level. And one of their, you know, biggest things was finding a way to cope with whatever issues that have been running you. And it's not necessarily actually healing you and regenerating, but finding a way to rationalize what you went through so you can still move on and participate in society. That's the same thing. And then I realize now, as I'm going through my own evolution process and realizing that the MK Ultra bullshit that was foisted upon me and my sister, landmark education was kind of like a big, large Band-Aid, but it never got to the root cause. And that's no different than all the therapies out there. That's no different than all the doctors and all the therapists and all the holistic professionals. It's just one big Band-Aid that does not get to the root cause of the matter because there's no real healing going on. Okay? Because you're in a microbial war. You're in a microbial war. When antibodies are being promoted as the number one thing to heal, and that's antibody, it's basically saying to you guys, It's like a programming. It's like Disney and Monsters Inc., where they are in your face about child trafficking and adrenochrome and scaring children, feasting upon the fear of children. Oh, when you see Dr. Fauci on CNN with Sanjay Gupta and Jake Tapper, and they're all about, yeah, it's about inducing antibodies here. We need to induce the antibodies here. We got to do the vaccine to induce more antibodies. And now we have these bioengineered monoclonal antibodies. And man, we have all these different drugs that's going to mess up your genetics and all this other stuff. But hey, it's a good thing. It's a good thing. And in my book, I do say that vaccines do help keep the balance as far as helping you transition. And that maybe was the initial intent of the vaccines, was to help people who have stagnated their evolution in their uterus, and so the baby isn't fully evolved to handle the new environment. So the vaccines were like a little bit of an intermediary to help them adapt. Well, back then when it was first rolled out, it probably did save a lot of lives. So people weren't evolving so quickly and they don't have a body to handle it and then they died, right? Well, now they have saying, okay, well, we have now produced 7 billion people on this planet. Now we need to change the intention of these vaccines and make the antibodies more aggressive, where the evolution is more severe on bodies that are already have comorbidities and are immunocompromised. And so you can take something that was good a long time ago and turn it into something that's evil. And that's the deception around the medical industry. It can be used for good on some level as a temporary thing, but it also can accelerate the death process relative to where you are on the spectrum of life and death. And life and death are not one and the same. They're very distinct. And so no matter what, the Jilly Juice protocol, no matter what, the Jilly Juice protocol is going to help you release the excess antibodies that you are inevitably going to be accumulating. And those antibodies, if you're not releasing excess, they will do a number on you. When you are 300 pounds, 200 pounds, or you have a dad bod, or you have other types of comorbidities, and you're full of shit, and you're afraid to blow your nose, and you get exposed to the vaccine in some way, or you take the vaccine, and those antibodies are shedding, and you're taking them in, you are going to be genetically modified, and it may not work to your benefit. Some of you will have a very hard time this next environment come December or sooner, because they're saying that in a couple weeks, Texas is going to be the first candidates for the vaccines. So just watch for Texas, you guys. And yeah, but right now they're laying the groundwork to blame the people who don't wear masks and blame the anti-vaxxers for the uptick of the virus, reactions. And there are also, of course, people who are not social distancing and they're rebelling against that. They're going to blame those that are having the house parties, those that are rebelling, those that are saying forget it. So no matter what, you're not going to be able to beat the system and how this is unless you understand that you're in a microbial war. You have to beat the system within your body, your biochemistry. It's not out there. Okay? Because they will have every single justification, rationalization. They will have a very succinct blaming opportunity, and they've already laid the groundwork. Oh, you don't want to wear a mask? Well, you're the reason why we have an uptick of all these viruses and all these different issues and cancer. And yeah, the vaccine's out there. It's helping some people, but hey, those are not wearing masks. They're not getting the vaccine. And so now you're seeing Babylon. You're seeing the Tower of Babel, where everyone's blaming each other. The pro-vaxxers are going to blame the anti-vaxxers, and the pro-maskers are going to blame the anti-maskers, and what else? The people that are social distancing are going to blame those that are having house parties. BLM's going to blame Antifa, or Trump is going to blame BLM. I mean, I'm telling you, it's a shit show. So the only way for you to beat the system that's going on right now, especially in America, those are in third world countries, I feel bad because you're now trying to survive. Like Beirut, they're just trying to survive. But if you're in the West, if you're in a first world country like Australia, America, Europe, okay, Canada, parts of South America, I suppose, and you get access to white salt and cabbage and kale, and water, relatively clean water, I guess, you haven't made to beat this microbial war. But if you're not doing the J juice or have it somewhere in the background, yeah, go to the Denver International Airport. Go look at the murals on the wall. That will tell you exactly what you're going to be dealing with. It's already been laid out. We've already, since, for me, 2012, it could have been way before that, since the conspiracy community came out with some of these rumors that really people had a hard time with. So did I. I mean, I believed it in the beginning, and then as I was going through my Jilly Juice journey, I rejected it for a minute because I had to get back to center. I had to get back to where I came from, and then found the evidence to substantiate the conspiracy community. I found the evidence of MK Ultra and the grooming of children, allowing adults to cross boundaries. When I remembered in my own household, that's exactly what I've been dealing with for a very long time. Okay, the MK Ultra, you know, all that stuff is actually true. And then you saw the playbook on it, and then there is satanic ritual abuse going on in the Bay Area, definitely in California, and as well as all different parts of the world. Okay, and so finally, you know, when I finally came back to center and I did the Jilly Juice and I peeled back the layers of programming, and what that is when I'm actually healing my body first. All the issues I had, you know, physically were being dealt with, release the excess, saw things come to surface and release and let go. So yeah, my PMDD has been reversed. It's not happening anymore. Okay, I haven't got my period yet, and it's 8/7. I'm supposed to get my period around this time, and I haven't gotten it yet. Okay, and so, and then I had the dreams, the weird dreams, and then my biochemistry, my spirit was recalibrating. And so, and then my mind, okay, and then this thing with what I dealt with as a child finally came to surface. All that MK Ultra bullshit that was thrown upon me, though not the most severe that you've seen where it ends up in death, but enough to where it fucks you up for a long ass time and you're trying to climb out of that hole. But the programming is so intense in the biochemistry that it's almost impossible to climb out of that hole unless you change your biochemistry. So the Jilly Juice has allowed me to peel back the layers of programming, but that happens at the personal microbial level. You can't possibly go and therapeutize your childhood away. You can't possibly go to an allopathic or holistic person to heal you at the micro level, because the very nature of holistic allopathic is antibiotic. Okay? So you must understand what you're up against. And so, you know, anyways, that's really it, I gotta say. But yeah, just understand, you guys, that you're in a microbial war. What good are your guns when you can't even pull the trigger on something? Okay? Because you have arthritis. What good is anything? What good is politics when you are dying at the micro level? What good is anything in your life when you are battling cancer, disease, and chronic illness? That's what you have to look at. So forget all the politics out there. Get your body recalibrated with the right chemistry. If not, yes, you're going to fall victim to the next wave. And Bill Gates has already told you the next wave is going to be worse than the first. So believe him. He's telling you what exactly is going on. Remember, he's a Freemason. All right, bye.